So I think in my previous video, I just introduced my project that I'm working on and gave some details about where I was in that in the roadmap to achieving my goals. So just to reiterate, my current project is designed to help me practice skills around ML ops and ML engineering. I'm using a couple of concepts or exploring a couple of concepts, the data flywheel and continuous training. And a data flywheel is like if you deploy a model to production so your customers can interact with it. As your customers interact with it, your model will accumulate more data about those interactions, save that data, and then be able to fine tune or retrain the model with that new data, ideally improving it over time as your corpus of data generated from your model increases in this data flywheel effect. The other concept I'm exploring is continuous training. So if you have a model that's using this data flywheel and it's generating data, you can trigger, based off whatever threshold you choose, to retrain or fine tune that model with this new corpus of data. And this can all be automated in such a way that over time, your model will just automatically retrain or fine tune itself with the new data that it's generating and get better and better through each training cycle. And of course, you would put in monitoring in place to be able to see how this automation is performing, to track your model versions, etc. So the last video, I think I had just had a an app running locally. I hadn't deployed it anywhere. Um, since the last video, I've deployed my model to GCP, to Cloud Run, containerized it, and deployed it to Cloud Run, and now it's running continuously in the cloud, running inference on images from this dog API, and I've created some monitoring for that with Grafana that I just run locally on my laptop, and this uses BigQuery as a data source. So my model, every time it does inference on an image, it records metrics about that prediction, and then saves it to BigQuery. And so with that, um, I can use a query to my BigQuery data source to generate a time series view of my model's prediction accuracy. So in this case, this is the prediction accuracy of the model um, in a 1 hour increment. So for every hour, I'm averaging the accuracy of the predictions made in that hour, and then visualizing that over the span of however long. So this is 7 days. So we can see that my model is really kind of hovering around this 50% accuracy area. And the plan is to version my model. So this is the first version of the model. It's using MobileNet v3. So I am versioning from 3.0 and then up. And what we see is the model's not great right now. It's pretty good considering it's just out of the box pre-trained model from TensorFlow. Um, And then we can see this lifetime prediction metric that I've created, which tells me that over the entire lifetime of the model, the prediction accuracy is about 54%. Um, and then another cool query I've written is to query all of the predictions which were inaccurate, which were false, and then group those by the breed types and look at where specifically is my model struggling. So it looks like the English Mastiff and the Welsh Terrier and the Indian um, Bakarwai, don't know, are the ones where it's struggling the most, and it's got quite a few breeds where it's struggling, and so the it's probably likely that the model hasn't been trained on these particular breeds, has no label associated with them. And we can kind of confirm that by looking at BigQuery and say, um, selecting for one of these breeds. So right here I have Mastiff English, and I see that there has never been a correct prediction here. It's often trying to predict a Bull Mastiff or a Rhodesian Ridgeback, which means the model isn't aware of this breed, likely. And I can confirm that by coming to my model's metadata. So I've saved the actual labels metadata from the pre-trained MobileNet model, and I've looked at, and I can look at all of the um, labels in the model. So if I look at Mastiff English, I don't see anything there, but I do see we have a Bull Mastiff and a Tibetan Mastiff in our model's training set. So that indicates to me that this data flywheel, um, this is the model's the Cloud Run UI for metrics in Cloud Run. That indicates to me that this data flywheel effect is probably going to work. So I can see I'm finding the blank spaces in this model with respect to dog breeds and accumulating data for those breeds. So the next step is to take that data and write a pipeline similar to the last to the way I iterated on the actual app, which does the inference. I'm going to iterate on a pipeline which will fine tune my model. So I'm saving my model versions in GCS. I'm going to load the model from GCS. I'm going to fine tune it. I'm going to load the data from GCS for the the images from the API. I'm going to fine tune my model, evaluate the model, and then if everything looks good, I'm going to deploy the new version of the model. And so all of that will be done manually for the first couple of iterations as I'm figuring out the code. And then once I've got a good idea of the correct way to write the logic for tuning the model, then I need to figure out how I can automate it and put it in Cloud Run or Cloud Functions to trigger those things. Like how will I trigger the tuning of the model, which will generate a new model artifact in GCS, and then how will I trigger my Cloud Run app to redeploy itself and fetch the new model um, and build an image with the new model and begin doing predictions and recording data about those predictions that I can visualize, as you see here, in my either my Grafana user interface or by looking at specific queries um, in BigQuery. So um, that's kind of the progress so far. Um, for the next little while, I'm going to have to be digging into the TensorFlow documentation and making sure I understand um, model fine tuning and transfer learning and how you um, freeze a certain number of layers and then tune a certain number of layers to allow the model to recognize more dog breeds, basically.